quiet. Poor people do not win lawsuits in this court. Those words came out of a judge's mouth during a hearing in which I represented 47 families against a powerful, real estate developer. The entire room froze. Everyone expected me to lower my head and accept the humiliation. But I am not just any lawyer. Inside my briefcase was something that arrogant judge never imagined existed. And when I opened my mouth again, every word became a bomb that blew up not only the case, but his entire career. If you have ever suffered injustice or know someone who has faced prejudice because of where they come from, like this video, comment with your story, and subscribe to the channel, because this story is just beginning and you will not want to miss a second of what happens when someone finally stands up to the system. My name is Carolina Mendes. I am 32 years old, and I grew up in a low-income community on the southern outskirts of São Paulo. My mother, Sina, worked her entire life as a domestic worker. My father, Jorge, drove a bus. Our home had 3 small rooms, walls that sweated in the summer and cracked in the winter. We did not have much, but we had dignity. Since I was a child, I knew I would have to fight twice as hard to obtain half of what others got for free. I studied in a public school where teachers performed miracles with almost nothing. At 14, I started working as an assistant in the neighborhood stationery shop. I woke up at 5 in the morning. I studied on the bus, worked in the afternoon, and did homework at night under the weak light of the street lamp that shone through the window. When I got a full scholarship to study law at a private university, my mother cried in the kitchen. My father hugged me without saying anything, but I felt his pride in the tightness of his arms. In college, the contrast was brutal. My classmates arrived by car, talked about international trips, wore brand name clothes. I arrived by bus, wearing the same washed and ironed jeans every week, carrying a lunchbox because I had no money to eat in the cafeteria. I heard jokes, sideways glances, comments about my accent and background, but every humiliation only fueled my determination. I graduated among the top students. I secured an internship at a public interest law office, where I learned that the law can either oppress or liberate. It depends on who wields it and for whom. It was there that I received the case that would change everything. The Santos family needed help, and together with them, 47 other families. What I did not know was that this case would bring me face to face with the dirtiest side of the Brazilian judicial system. The case looked simple on paper, but it was a ticking bomb. The Santos family and the other 47 families had lived for more than 15 years on a plot of land on the outskirts of São Paulo. They built their homes brick by brick. They raised their children there, planted trees, formed a community. Out of nowhere, the developer Mendes e Oliveira Incorporações appeared demanding immediate eviction. They claimed to own the land and threatened to demolish everything without paying a cent in compensation. When Mrs. Marlene, matriarch of the Santos family, came to me, she brought a plastic bag full of wrinkled documents, receipts for electricity, water, and property taxes from previous years, old photographs. I began investigating. I spent nights in the real estate registry, at City Hall, in dusty public archives. And then I found the first irregularity. The deed presented by the developer had a suspicious registration date. I dug deeper. I discovered that the land was originally public, destined for a housing program that never materialized. Someone falsified documents to transfer it to a shell company that later sold it to the developer for a negligible amount. It was multi-layered fraud. I documented everything: photographs, certifications, technical reports. I spent my own money to hire a handwriting expert who confirmed the signatures on the documents were fake. I had a solid, irrefutable case. Then, the threats began. Phone calls in the middle of the night. Strange cars parked in front of my building. An unmarked envelope slipped under my door with photos of me entering and leaving my home. Inside, a note: "Some cases are not worth it." Then came the bribery attempt. A lawyer for the developer offered me 50,000 reais to reconsider my interpretation of the facts. I refused, reported the threats, and prepared meticulously for the hearing. I knew I would face expensive lawyers in Italian suits armed with ornate rhetoric. What I did not expect was a judge who had already chosen the winning side before even banging the gavel. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday at 9 in the morning. I arrived early, mentally reviewing every argument, every article of law, every precedent. The room was freezing with that exaggerated public building air conditioning. I sat at the defense table. Across from me were 3 of the developer's lawyers, wearing suits that probably cost more than my salary for 6 months. The judge was Renato Albuquerque, known in the courthouse halls as someone who understood how things worked. In other words, he favored whoever had money and influence. He entered. Everyone stood, and he looked at me with a mix of boredom and disdain. The hearing began. The developer's lawyers spoke first. Empty arguments wrapped in pretentious language. When it was my turn, I stood, took a deep breath, and began. I presented the chronology of the occupation, the documents proving peaceful and continuous possession, and the certifications showing irregularities in the deed provided by the developer. I did not get halfway. The judge slammed the gavel. Quiet. His voice echoed through the room. I looked at him, incredulous. Poor people do not win lawsuits in this court. Do you think you can come here with sob stories and change the order of things? This is not social assistance, counselor. This is a serious court. I felt my blood boil. The room drowned in humiliating silence. The developer's lawyers exchanged smiles. The clerk looked down, pretending not to hear. My heart pounded so loudly I heard my pulse in my ears. I breathed once, twice, 3 times. Then, with the calmest voice I could summon, I asked, "Your Honor, may I continue?" He laughed, a short, cruel laugh. "You may waste your Latin all you want, counselor. It will not change anything. The decision here has already been made." It was then that I opened my briefcase slowly, very slowly, because inside was the ammunition I had saved for exactly this moment. "Your Honor, since you have given me space to waste my Latin, I would like to present additional evidence to the record." My voice came out firm. I took the first envelope. "These are copies of bank transfers made by Mendes and Oliveira to an offshore company in the Cayman Islands. The dates coincide exactly with 3 previous lawsuits, all judged in this court, all with rulings favorable to the same developer." The judge's smile vanished. The developer's lawyers looked at each other, pale. I continued. "Here we have photographs of private meetings between Your Honor and the company's CEO in a restaurant in Higienopolis. Once again, the dates coincide with the eve of favorable rulings." I placed the photos on the table one by one. The judge tried to stand, but I did not stop. "And finally, we have the report of an independent forensic accountant tracking suspicious transactions in accounts connected to your name. Your Honor, values incompatible with your declared income, deposits made shortly after judicial decisions benefiting the same developer." The room erupted. One of the developer's lawyers shouted, "This is inadmissible." The judge tried to slam the gavel. "Order. Order in this court." For the first time, I raised my voice. "And regarding your statement that poor people do not win lawsuits in this court, Your Honor, you are absolutely correct. But not for lack of legal rights. For corruption. For magistrates who have turned their robe dice. For a system that sells justice to the highest bidder." Then I dropped the final bomb. All of this evidence was submitted to the National Judicial Council, the court's Internal Affairs Office, and the Federal Prosecutor's Office exactly 43 minutes ago. Here are the filing numbers. The judge stood up, red, trying to leave. Security was called, but not to remove me. Reporters began flooding in. Someone had leaked the information. Flashes, cameras, absolute chaos. And I stood there, with my evidence spread across the table, looking into the eyes of a man who discovered that power has limits. In the weeks that followed, the entire country watched the case unfold. Judge Renato Albuquerque was immediately suspended. The investigation uncovered a corruption scheme involving not only him, but for other judges, the developer, and a network of front companies. Arrests were made, fortunes were frozen. The system finally showed that when public pressure is large enough, it can function. The Santos family and the other 47 families not only remained in their homes, they received definitive property deeds. Each family was compensated for moral damages, suffering, and sleepless nights fearing demolition. The children continued playing in the same streets. The trees they planted kept growing. My life changed completely. I received offers from major law firms, financially tempting offers. But I chose to open my own public interest law office in the same neighborhood where I grew up. Today I have a team of 8 lawyers, all from backgrounds similar to mine. We defend those the system insists on ignoring. That moment in court could have broken me. The public humiliation, the attempt to silence me could have made me quit. But I learned something fundamental. They only have power over you if you believe they are bigger than the truth. And the truth, when well documented and defended with courage, is a force impossible to stop. Judge Renato Albuquerque was right about one thing. Poor people really did not win lawsuits in that court, because in that court justice was for sale. But when you fight armed with evidence, determination, and the absolute refusal to bow to injustice, you do not need to buy anything. You just need the courage to open your mouth and say no. If you have ever felt the system was against you, that your background determined your destiny, or if you have been silenced by someone who believed power mattered more than reason, know this: they only win if you stop fighting. My story is proof that truth, when well presented, can topple even the most powerful. And you, what would you have done in that courtroom? Leave your opinion in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that justice is still possible. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel. In the next recommended video, you will hear another story of someone who refused to be silenced. And believe me, you will not want to miss it.